Welcome to GROGTALK. Good morning. I'm James, and if you notice, for those who are watching on YouTube, you notice that we've exchanged one little figure for not as small a figure. We have our special guest today. We have Max Bricalt. He is the governor, most stupendous, puissance lord, the august champion of Quebec City. He has his heraldry right there. So, good morning, Max. How are you?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on. You've been with the show for almost since the beginning. I think maybe we were a few weeks in, and then I started seeing your comments. So why don't you tell our audience about yourself and how you got in the hobby and what you're doing now in role play.
Well, I'm presently a video game designer.
Okay.
So I'm in the video game business for almost 25 years. I've been working in at Ubisoft Montreal for 21 years almost. So I've seen a lot of franchises born and destroyed during the years, but mostly pretty good franchises that I got my hands on. And also, what happens is that the business is good right now. Sometimes it's not as good,
Right.
but right now it's pretty good, and we're happy for all the support from all the fans. And how do I get in the hobby? Okay, it's gonna be a short, long story. I'm gonna use the tree metaphor, planting a tree metaphor.
Okay.
I remember when I was a kid, brother came by once in my room after he played a role-playing game, and he had a funky set of dice. I remember that. And I said, "Whoa, what are these dice doing? And what kind of game are you playing?" And he says, "Well, role-playing game." And it's kind of like the metaphor. He just gave me a seed, just something that I could use later on in my life. Fast forward to 1989 when Hero Quest, the board game,
Oh
came
yeah,
out.
Hero Quest. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who know, it's a gaming workshop, kind of like a stepping stone to get into Warhammer.
That's it.
It was published by here in Canada, anyways. Was published in by Parker Brothers, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And I noticed the commercial with all the fantasy stuff and all that, and also they had six-sided dice, but with weird designs on them. And I said, "Wow, this looks like your game." For my brother, it's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, it seems similar." So without giving a second thought, my parents got it for my birthday, and it was a huge surprise because those games back in the day was pretty expensive because you had the whole kit, you had the DM screen, you had the all the figurines, the sheets, and all that stuff. And we played it, and this is where the seed just went inside the soil, if you will, but it didn't grow. It was there. I had a lot of fun playing that game, but it was missing something. And I remember, fast forward in 1993, if I remember correctly, second edition was in full swing. Not first edition, sorry, but second edition
Okay.
was in full swing. And one of the boyfriend of my sister came to my house and said, "Hey, well, do you want to play this?" And I noticed he had a funky set of dice, just like my brother. And I was
Wow.
like, "Whoa, cool." So I said, "Hey, bro, can I borrow your set of dice?" He said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to you." I was like, "Wow, okay, that's a huge present for me because they're like runestones for me." So we created a character, a fighter. So I appreciate your input last week about the fighter. I always had a small sentimental appeal to the fighters because of that, because it's the first one that I played, and it's the easiest, quote unquote, since we can have any sort of stats available for them. And I played it, and at the end, I remember the point where I got into the hobby. Uh, Long story short, for the adventure, my fighter was newly dubbed a guard inside of a village, and a bunch of orcs kidnap the how you say it, the mayor's daughter,
Yeah.
and that was my stepping stone of getting her back. Of course, the damsel in distress scenario. So I went in and I fought two goblins and an orc. First goblin, no problem. Second goblin, a little bit of scratch here and there, no problem. And since I had a D10, I had 7 hit points, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But the orc really hammered me, and it was a do or die situation. And the way the DM described it to me, I remember it clearly. He said, "You can see the mayor's daughter in the background, tied up, tears running down her cheek, and she was seeing all hopeful, and I was kneeling down, wounds everywhere." I said, I could go get help, or he said to me, "You can go get help, or you can stay there and fight and die bravely." So I said, let's go for it. And I remember getting a natural 20, of course, and I chopped the orc halfway through the chest, and the way he described it and how I kneeled back and I said I saved the situation, that I just watered down the seed and it grew like a 1,000-year-old oak in one instant. I was like instantly hooked, and I was like, wow. And I remember that moment clearly because it was a big part of my adolescent, of course, and started playing that ever since.
Wonderful.
For yeah, for first edition though, since we were at second edition and we were young adolescents, and we said, who needs first edition? We got second edition
Right.
now. Yeah, I did some research, of course, and it was pretty good. I mean, the first edition was really remarkable, but and I know that Gary did a lot of stuff that influenced uh, basically all entertainment at that time, whatever was the hobby or video games or even uh, barbarian movies of the 80s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They influenced pretty much everything. But it was only recently, like a year and a half ago or two, that I came upon a trailer for a documentary about him. It's uh, what's it called? In Gary's basement.
Okay, I think
Yeah,
I saw something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
was it on Netflix or Amazon or which?
No, it was a Patreon thing.
Oh, Patreon thing. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it was a Patreon thing, and no, not part of Patreon. Sorry, and sorry, Kickstarter.
Kickstarter.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and Dreams in Gary's basement. There you
Ah,
go.
okay.
And I saw the trailer. I was like, whoa, this guy had an interesting life. And then I started reading about it. And then I started getting the books and getting all the books.
Mm-hmm.
Two editions, the one with the first covers and the second one with the Eastleigh covers. And I read them through. And I was, wow, I needed more info about it. And then I stumbled onto you guys.
Oh, okay. Well, wonderful. That's great.
Full circle. Full circle. My stories are long, but they always come back to to why we're here.
Oh, that's
And
great. Go ahead.
for the people viewing, sorry for my thick Quebecer accent. Is not that I have 3 points of intelligence. It's just that my pronunciation is really rough for English. I understand everything, but my pronunciation, sometimes I need to pause and infiltrate all the information before I can get it out
Well,
there.
I have no problem at all, and fortunately, your English is infinitely better than my French, so that's wonderful. We took Spanish in school
Mm,
here. You could take
yeah,
French
of
or
course.
Spanish, and I lived in New York City, so unfortunately, the population of French was diminutive next to the amount of Hispanic people we had. So, well, so you work at
I
Ubisoft. That's great. I've played a number of Ubisoft games. I think they're from the Canada version. What's some of the games, if you don't mind, that you've worked on?
Oh, well, for 21 years, the more significant one, I remember. Okay, let's start from back then. The more influential ones was Rayman 2,
Yep.
Beyond Good and Evil, the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time trilogy.
Wow.
Yeah, that one was pretty spectacular. Splinter Cell, the first three ones that were done in Montreal and co-op in Shanghai and other studios around the world. Recently, Far Cry 4, Far Cry Primal, and I did also a bunch of Assassins, which the last one was Assassin's Odyssey.
Odyssey, yes, okay.
Read the Odyssey. For those of you, it's for those of you who don't know, Assassin is it's kind of like a time warp.
Right, right. Period pieces.
Yeah,
The character's the same, but he goes into different periods, basically.
yeah. Basically, yeah, it's the characters from this time period that go back using DNA and relive the memories of the ancestors.
Ah,
So yeah, so we go pretty much. We went to Assassin, the Revolution, the American Revolution. We went to the French Revolution. We went to everywhere. Recently, Egypt in Origins, which was a pretty good game. I must admit. We worked hard on that one, and it was pretty well made. And Odyssey, I worked a little bit, helped Quebec because it was the mandate of Ubisoft Quebec. And yeah, so we did a lot of stuff, and I'm doing other projects right now, which I can't
that's right.
say any
That's
because they not announced
that's right.
yet. Sorry,
No, that's
folks.
okay. That's great. So, because of your background, do you think Dungeons and Dragons influenced your creative process in making video games, or have you used some of the skills, or give me your experience with that?
Well, quite frankly, there's just I'll answer your question, but another question in parallel. After reading the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master Guide,
Right.
I couldn't believe. I was reminiscent of the South Park episode when they always said Simpsons did it, Simpsons did it. Well, it was a reference, well, because every single subject inside the show, The Simpsons already did it because it's been on for so long.
Right.
Uh, and I was reminiscent of that because everything I read, since it was the first time I read it a few years, well, a couple of years back, I said, "Oh dear!" It's like every single aspect of a video game, creation-wise, or what we call uh, game design documents,
Right.
everything that a video game you need information on when you're creating one, from the designer to the creative director to the artists, it's all in there. So I was flabbergasted when I saw that because it was like, oh my dear Lord, this guy was ahead of his time, or everybody was influenced one way or the other
Yeah.
because of the player's handbook and the DM guide and the monster manual, because those are tools that we use in video game creative process. We list the rules, the general feedback for the player, and for the DM, which is the editor, which is the game engine. He feeds all the information, so we need rules for that, and it's all in there. And people might say you're exaggerating, Max, but no, I'm not. Actually, just read through them and you're gonna see that it's a huge portion of our creative process that it's in there. So when newbies come by on my desk, it's like, oh, can you tell me what can I read to get me started or influence? I said I just point because I always got my DMG and my handbook on me, so I'm like, read these and come back to me. And they say, what? Why? I was like, no, you'll understand. The process is gonna be in there. So everything that's going on everywhere inside the video game business, it's all influenced there. For me personally, what did help me for this, to answer your question, I'm babbling. See,
Oh, don't worry.
what influenced me, um, it was more, how do you say, storytelling
Yeah.
wise, to express my different ideas because I work on cameras for games. Cameras, what is it? It's the view that follows the player around. So every time that I use an analogy, it's from Super Mario 64, where you on Nintendo 64, where you see the character with the camera behind and you can control the camera. Well, that's me.
Right.
That's what I do in my work. So it's more storytelling wise and how the shots, how the characters and the players interactivity with the objects
Right.
influence the camera's positioning, and to tell a story without user input
Yep.
without them always orienting themselves in the proper direction. Just telling them, hey, this is where you have to go, this is what you have to do, without even having a line of text or UI on the screen. So yeah, that influenced me a lot, and communication skills also. And I'm a big fan of staying true, hard and true. So the first player's handbook that I got, D&D wise, was the second edition. All my friends got it in French, but I got it in English.
Ah,
So it was a language class for me, both to comprehend both the
translation.
traduction, yeah, translation wise. So when I got out my player's handbook and I started reading, everybody on the table was looking left and right. It's like, what stats are you talking about? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is, your two hit bonus. No, no. I was like, oh, okay. And at that time was Taco. So it was a pretty long name in French. I won't say it here. So yeah. So that influenced me a lot on communication skills and how to convert ideas, because in Ubisoft Montreal we have both English and French fluent people, and both sides have people who don't speak either English or French.
Hmm.
So you have to turn the switch on and off frequently when
Sure.
you're in meeting. And sometimes you have to translate on your partner's side. It's like, did you understand? No, I didn't. Well, they said da 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 da. And then you came back and you switch English on. And it's like, okay, what do you want? So yeah, that's a lot of influence, and also crunching numbers, which is something that people tend to not associate with gaming.
Right.
But yeah, that influences a lot.
Awesome. Yeah. So we have our Chamberlain, most from Australia, David Thompson's
Oh,
on the net. So he was our guest last week. He
yeah,
he uh, he said he remembers Final Command on his old Amstrad back in the '80s, which apparently is an Ubisoft game. So uh,
final. Wow, with the old pink logo,
I,
Ubisoft. Yeah, I think so.
I, maybe before your time, huh? So
Yeah, that's more way before my time. Yeah, I started working in '98. Yeah,
98. Okay.
yeah.
So he had a question, and I think it's a good one. Does I watch another YouTuber, Matt Colville, who he was a designer at Turtle Rock Studios, and he would host D&D games. He was like the lead designer for Evolve game,
Oh yeah.
um,
Hmm.
and he used to run D&D at the studio. Do people play D&D at the studio?
Sometimes yes.
Okay.
Most of the time no,
Right.
unfortunately, because people tend to go to out to lunch. But we geeks tend to stick around our desk and read stuff. At first, yes, we did play a lot. Now there's more people working around the clock. So what happens is that we have different. Uh, sorry, it's gonna come out. Different
Shifts?
yeah, just different shifts that so people can come in at work at 10 o'clock in the morning or
Ah,
7 or
they're,
at 6 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
because I'm a early bird. So sometimes it doesn't coordinate.
gotcha.
But yeah, sometimes they do have some, but not as much as at that time. No,
Yeah.
unfortunately for me, because I would greatly appreciate that if anybody's watching, you know.
Right. Well, and that's how Dan and I got started. We wanted to play because after so many years of not playing, Dan and his friend Ed took the initiative and started the meetup, which got me involved, and then that's got the group. So I'm and like you said, there's probably a lot of people who have the propensity. They want to play because they're creative people. They like game playing. I'm sure there's a bunch of people there. It just takes someone to get them on the same page, either doing it in the evening, but a lot of people have family expectations. So, but I'm sure if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, there's a lot of forums and talking points inside the local intranet
Right.
website we have. So maybe I can start a few game sessions.
Sure.
I'll probably do a net OSR game first
Right.
before handling well, for me, it's the granddaddy of them all because I don't want to scare people away.
Right.
Just nudge, and come and see us. Come and see us.
That's right.
Play a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like here,
but
like Hero Quest. It's you got to get them in,
yeah,
step in there first. That's right.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. See, switching back and forth
No, it's
in French.
okay. So are you playing right now?
I'm trying, yeah. I only have one player, and I think I mentioned him once. He was a ranger, and that's why I stumbled upon your yeah, the podcast of
I
rangers,
gotcha. Yeah.
and I remember seeing all the stats that I got wrong. So like I said, my English is a little bit rusty, but so I reread. I was like, no, they're right. This is a magnificent class. I always thought a ranger, secondary class of fighter, because I'm a big fighter fan and paladin. So he, I was like, no, this rangers are pretty cool. So yeah, this this type of gaming component and all that stuff, I'll try to incorporate people and get them back in. But yeah, he plays a ranger, and we only play like once a month or once every 2 months,
Yeah.
and my dwarven forge miniatures are just sitting there waiting to get
Oh,
to get to get placed, and I'm pretty excited. But I do stuff on the side just to keep me entertained and growing with the hobby, like rereading the books. I'm rereading the second edition right now, and I did my own dice tower just for fun.
nice.
Yeah. I have it here so I can roll dice for the monster random monster encounter, and all that stuff. So yeah, it keeps me occupied, but I wish we had a little bit more time to play. I have 4 kids, he has 3, so so,
So what ages are they?
my kids
Yes.
6, 9, 11, and 17
Okay.
also.
Okay.
So
So yeah.
yeah.
Well, they're getting to the age where that's that you can, especially if they have that inclination, they would want to play. It was about 10. I mean, obviously your 17-year-old's way old enough, but it was about 10 or 11 when I first tried to give them a stripped down game. In fact, um, I have my suggestion for. In fact, I'm going to pull it out so I don't forget it. But back, I had taken a hiatus, and this I was a big Diablo 2 fan. So
Ah,
here's Diablo 2, right?
yeah.
And Diablo, my friends play it. So this is a D&D. This is a D&D game of it. It's like a bastardized third edition, but it's made with little chicks. It's like a very basic entry. It doesn't use the computer. So this will be my suggestion later. But anyway, this is what I used with my kids because it was kind of like a video game meets D&D. It's kind of a gateway drug into it.
So it's partially this game system's fault that we had 4th edition then.
That's right. Basically, that's right. That's people would say that. Uh,
Yeah, no, because when you said video gamey, I was like, 4th edition, okay.
yeah,
Yeah. But this
yeah, it was
looks
about
really nice.
2000. Yeah, I'll pull it out later when we do our suggestion.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, interesting. I didn't even know that they had the Diablo 2. I was too busy probably playing the game Diablo 2 before noticing it. So yeah,
So it was, my kids had not that they played Diablo 2, but I had friends who played at the same time. So we'll talk
yeah,
we'll
sure.
talk more about that in our suggestions. So um, I'm just doing some chatting here since I don't have a
Yeah,
production
sure, no
problem.
problem.
So let's. I'm going to do some announcements for those who don't know. GrogCon is coming, October 11th through the 13th. Uh, we did survive the storm. We weren't blown away and destroyed, uh, which is very fortunate. And that I'm very happy about that. So, but I didn't have to work. I work in government, so when there's problems, you have to do that. I was there Monday and Tuesday, so didn't have much of a weekend, but we're recovering now. But October 11th through the 13th here in the Orlando area at the Days at Windham in Kissimmee, we're gonna have lots of games. We're gonna have We'll be running AD&D. I'll be running a Paranoia game. We'll be running Call of Cthulhu. Plus, there'll be 5th edition. Warhammer 40K will be there. It's a big miniature event. So it's a lot of fun. If you're in the Orlando area, we'd love to see you all. So we'll see you there for that. Let's see. So, and we're getting down to the last 5 or 6 weeks. So actually, Dan and I are we have decided the tournament module that we wrote for the summer tournament that we did here. Apparently, we are masochists. We're going to not use that one. We're building another module. So,
Wow. Not bad.
So we're going to, I guess he wants to do that. So
he wants to surprise people.
That's right. Yeah.
Keep them up.
Well, our fear is that we're going to have the same people. You know, again, there's when you take the total people who play Dungeons and Dragons, and then you take the people who only play First Edition in the Orlando area, it's not tens of thousands. So our concern was the people who played the tournament would be the same ones who'd be showing up, and we didn't want them to feel like, well, I already played this. So we've decided that we're going to just create another module. So he sent me the draft, so we're going to be working on that. I'm also going to try to run my Paranoia game one more time to play test it. I've done it once, and they'll do it a second time. All right, so this is the fun part of the show, Max, where we get to roll random dice. You get to roll dice.
Oh yeah.
So without Dan here, I'm going to make up my own chart. So we're going to do a random encounter. Why don't you throw a D10? And we'll figure out where you're going to be.
2.
2. Hey, congratulations. You're in a dungeon.
Oh.
Your fighter finds himself in a dungeon, and so now roll a D10.
Another one. Okay. 8.
8. Ooh, okay. So now you need to roll a D8 and a D12 and add the result.
D8 and D12. D8 and D12?
Yes.
17.
17, okay. And you said 8 before that, so you have unfortunately ran into a ghost. That is what.
Oh.
That is not good.
I can imagine what happened.
So that's a classic one. Classic in the Monster Manual. Have you ever encountered a ghost while playing or DMing? By the way, did you mostly DM or did you mostly play?
What I DM'd in the 1990s was, since I was a rabid gamer, was a game called Street Fighter, the storytelling.
Wow, the Street Fighter RPG. There's a Street Fighter RPG. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was since I'm a huge fan of Street Fighter 2, the 2 and 3, but not 4. I ran most of my DM time was like this one, so it's more based on the White Wolf system.
Okay, yeah.
But as a gamer, I would play mostly on AD&D, and another one that's called the Dark Eye, which is L'Œil Noir.
Oh wow, wow, wonderful.
Yeah. So no, I'm mostly DMing, and I never tried a ghost because I think you need a magical weapon, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, let's look that up. We are in the Monster Manual and page 43. If you're playing at home.
40.
Some of our folks guessed. Let's see. Oh, that would be. So David, yeah, that's Rust Monsters level 4 for those who are playing at home, which is in the MM2. Okay, so what we see here is Monster Manual is very rare. So of course Dan and I were fascinated by the frequency. So if you look in the beginning of the Monster Manual, frequency says 4% chance. So that seems about right. And the magic resistance. So it has special attack, special defense. What's interesting about ghosts are, compared to most players hate vampires, specters, wraiths, wights because they level drain. And unless your DM is really playing the game well, which they should, and they should be keeping track of time. So for humans, being attacked by a ghost is potentially just as bad or worse because being aged 10 to 40 years, that's their special attack. You go from being a young adult or mature to becoming very old, and you lose in the DMG under age the effects of aging, which I think is page 30 or 40 or something to that effect. You will lose a point of strength, a point of constitution. You'll gain some wisdom. So for some, it may be good. In fact, I used to joke when I would play like a half elf something. Boy, I'd like to get a cleric, even though I couldn't go up too high level. If I could get aged a few years, I could get more. Yeah, if you go from mature to old, so if you're a human and you're 24 years old and you get ghosted, you get a ghost attack and it does 40 years, you become 65, you're old. You subtract 2 points from strength, 2 points from dexterity, and 1 point of constitution, and you gain 1 point of wisdom. So, very
Yeah.
scary
So
stuff.
what impresses me is that the hit dice is 10.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's 10 hit dice.
Heavy.
You've got to, and the way they are portrayed in the monster manual is that ghosts are evil.
Yeah.
And so that this idea of a good spirit really doesn't come till later. So ghosts are of evil humans, and they only spend 25% of their time in their lair. So they're kind of roaming around places of darkness, it says. And because they're ethereal, they do a touch attack, but the mere sight can cause any human to be aged 10 years and flee for panic. And it's interesting that clerics above 6th level are immune to this effects, and all the humanoids above 8th level add +2. So this is one of those, just like the mummy, which has a fear aspect. You could have half your party, take off, and the other half still be there. So immediately you have that challenge. Cyber Heston's talking about, we had the same thing in the comments. They were addicted to speed, haste spells. And so they would be constantly aging themselves. So as a DM, you always had to keep track of people's time, because it's like, as soon as the magic user got haste, he'd be dumped. Haste was in a lot of ways a better spell than fireball or lightning bolt, because if your fighters got twice as many attacks, for a number of rounds, that was good. What else is interesting about the ghosts from your perspective?
I think the intelligence high. I would have placed it like some sort of a random creature just roaming around,
right,
having his past memories repeat themselves over and over again. But since he has a high intelligence, well, he's not. Yeah, I mean, he can go for help if if he wants. Can he attract other ghosts or?
It doesn't say.
Number
it says
one.
Number appearing 1. So basically, that's it. And it has,
Okay.
it has basically 2 armor classes. So you have, if you somehow have the ability to attack them on the ethereal plane, their armor class is pretty bad. If you're fighting them in the material plane, their armor class is 0, and you have to use silver or magic weapons, as you kind of alluded to.
Yeah. Okay, that's why I never placed them, because they never go so high level to find magical weapons or silver weapons or buy them. For my players, anyway.
Right.
But it's an interesting thing, because ghosts are pretty common in all the other RPGs, and I never thought that it was that complicated or that destructive for a party. Like you said, if you can split the party, it's done for. You have your fighter going one way, and you leave the magic user alone with him. Yeah, it's pretty done for.
The challenge with any single bad guy, is that the party has multiple attacks. Because the ghost has that ability, just like the vampire or the mummy, to split the party or change people. So the vampire has the charm ability, Mummy has the fear ability. Once you start splitting the party around, it becomes a fair fight. In this case, this is a level 8 monster, so
Yeah.
you're probably you have 4 to 8 characters depending on how big your party is of 7th or 8th level. They should easily take care of this if they're full strength. The problem
Mm-hmm.
is if half of them run in terror, some of them are weakened, and now you're in trouble. So that's what makes this an interesting um, thing. And the other thing that Ghost does, which is when you're once you've gotten past, I call the escape velocity. Once you're past 5th or 6th level, your party has access to raise dead. Your party has access to because they have
True.
money. So dying is not that big a deal. It's annoying. You lose a point of con if you die, um, but
You need to have your check, right?
yes, you have to make your check.
Yeah.
But
Which I always fail. So
right. Well then, in this case, if you're killed by a ghost, you are forever dead. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's where the oops. Um, yes, that's another surprise that the poor party has in store, and it's one that should be some of the commenters. This should be more of a big bad guy. You shouldn't be just. Especially if you're 7th or 8th level, just kind of walking through the forest and you get a random ghost.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
that it should be the haunted mansion or something like that, or an
Yeah.
ancient crypt like that. So
Well, since we're in the dungeon right
right,
now, that's appropriate. But I always wondered about that. If you roll that, but it's daylight outside, what happens? Does it still come out, or is it in dark places? Like if it's inside a forest, does it go from tree to tree?
right.
That's a pretty.
Yeah, is it a thick forest where it kind of recluses
Yeah,
itself? Does it get penalties? Future later editions they have some mechanics, but in D&D each monster for the most part kind of stands on its own, and you'd have to adjudicate that. If it was a sunny day in the plains,
yeah,
why would there be
definitely, yeah.
a ghost just
But
floating around? Yeah.
nothing happens there. It really.
Well, there's one more
Oh,
ability that it has, which we didn't talk about. Besides the fear, is the magic jar ability. So basically, it can take over another creature. So magic jar is a 6th level magic user spell, and if you go into the player's handbook, let's go to that. So see, you're getting the full Grog Talk experience, Max. You're
yeah.
flipping pages and going through books. You're like,
I'm doing your work, Jane.
that's right. So magic jar, maybe is it 5th level or 6th level? Let's see.
Oh, I have no
I
idea.
think it may be 5th level.
In the player's handbook?
Yes. Let's
Yeah.
see. No, it's not 5th level. It's not 6th level. 5th level. Um, So with Magic Jar, it enables the magic user to take over the mind of the victim and thus control the creature's body. So,
Oh,
so
that's pretty cool.
yeah. So you really have a situation that you can. This should be your big bad guy who could kind of come, not attack directly, but get near them within, in this case, 60 feet. Get near them, try to take over one of the party members, cause a lot of chaos. This is where, depending on the players that you have, are they going to play along with it? I don't know.
That was my next question. Do you let the player tell them and say, okay, you're gonna play a possessed being,
Right.
or is the dungeon master just saying random stuff? Okay, you're moving your hand around and you're doing other things, and you don't know what's going on. You have no control over your body, or if you have an experienced player, I think you should let him role play if people like doing role play. That's a great opportunity to I'm gonna leave the party with a big bang. I'm gonna role play my way until I die, basically, because I don't know how long does it get possessed, or is it possessed for.
So the magic jar is special. I think what happens is, I'm sure there's a saving throw, and kind of like charm person.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay.
So your question is a good one. You would hope your players would embrace. Again, no player. I've never seen a player go, "Oh, great, my character is possessed or
Yeah.
charmed. This is fun." I get, but some of them will accept that that's part of the game,
Yeah.
and they'll play, and it gives them a little. It makes their game a little harder because on the one hand, if they're a good player, they're going to play along, but they also don't want themselves killed or the party killed. So
Yeah.
they'll try their best to follow along with it, or at least not make it so obvious. I think mature players like the idea of the drama and they want the big reveal.
Yeah.
And I don't know if my players, the ones I play with, even up to today, are going to be super stoked about betraying the party and having that. They're more going to be like, uh, we had a situation where one of our players, I don't know, was charmed, and he did what he was supposed to do. He was affected by the charm, but he played along, but it wasn't. He didn't have the full gusto of it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So
Yeah.
your choice then is you basically metagame it and you tell people, you know, James's character is now acting strange or something like that. So
Yeah, that's why probably it was better for me to have started in the less harmful second edition. Because if I would have started in this edition, probably I would scream my head off saying, "Another character? Come on, I don't want to roll another character every time." Because I do pretty dumb stuff in AD&D.
yeah,
So yeah, I probably get killed and possessed all the time. So I would be like, oh, come on.
well that's what.
But you have to be.
Yeah,
But now, in my mature age, uh, I understand the mechanic more and why they did it like that. And every system, when you analyze that in every part of your show, I understand that every system is intertwined. Kind of like the fighter that I keep mentioning the fighter. Yeah, last week was pretty incredible. I mean, everything was like, why is the fighter less powerful when he's more mature and level wise? But you explained it yesterday, last weekend. I was like, hey, this seems very logical. That's a logical step, and everything is intertwined. And I'm pretty sure that with everything that's happening inside these books, you can't have everything um, well in the head of Gary.
right.
I mean, he probably had so much to calculate and all that stuff, but the system that he built all these years, I think he managed to intertwine everything. So yeah, even though that fighters and all that stuff, and even ghosts at one point, um, it was all perfectly balanced for this type of game, which is survival.
Yeah,
You want to get treasure, but you need to survive. And the other editions is more a fantasy novel uh, exploration and all that stuff. So maybe I wasn't mature enough to do that at the time, but now I understand it and I really appreciate this edition, and I think it's the best one, probably.
yeah. I don't. I think they're all. It's
They,
just like game development. Back
yeah,
early on, it was a single developer or one or two people wrote the game, and they had their
true.
vision, and the games are much simpler. And there's a lot of old games I love, and then I have a lot of nostalgia for them, and then I pull them up again. I'm like, some of them still hold. Uh,
Yeah,
there's a game I used to play called Mule, which is an old game, and it was a competitive old multiplayer game. It was economic. You try to screw your neighbor, basically. Still plays great. And then there's other ones like, oh, geez, this is this. Once you watch them
that,
again, you're like, they've not aged well. I part of this game, any game that's enduring, um, in my opinion, and we've talked to the various DMs, you have what's called the meta of your group, and
yeah,
this was Gary's understanding. What makes first edition? It's his game. He's the one who crafted based on
mm,
the things he did previous to that, and what he thought the game should be. And just like you do in your professional life, you play test things. You send
Yeah.
patches out. Oh, that thing is overpowered. This thing doesn't work right. The camera doesn't move when it's supposed to, and then people get mad at you. I'm fighting the boss, and the camera doesn't adjust. So there's fixes, but then there's changes in style, and I think there's both um, that the game has evolved with here, and different editions changed the not only the rules, but it changed the style of play. Like you said, more storytelling. You could do
Yeah.
storytelling in here. You could
Yeah.
run all
Sure.
kinds of things. It just depends
Yeah.
on the meta. I think the thrust of this is a very deadly game, and it
Yeah.
rewards. So when you do succeed, you feel very accomplished. It's more of the Dark Souls
Yeah.
mindset. Uh,
Yeah. That's why Dark Souls are always compared to old school games that, oh, you died. Hey, go back and redo all the stuff that you did before. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, that type of game.
and for me, I as a now in my late 40s, I only usually play video games with my kids. If they're playing them, I'll play with them.
Yeah.
And it's not competitive to me. I'm the fourth team member of the strike team. I'm the medic or whatever. As long I don't put me in front, make me do something that's simple, um, or like card games or whatever. Uh, I Dark Souls or a game like that has no appeal to me. If I can't save right where I'm at and I have to go back to a beginning, that's it. I'm done. I don't have the time for it. But there are people who love that.
Yeah.
That's gaming to them. Hardcore, instant death, got to start over. Great.
But for video games at that time, role playing games were, how do I say? I was emotionally attached to my
Right.
characters, even though that But in a video game, you die. So at that time, a Dark Soul, when I was in my teens, I wouldn't mind it. I would relish the challenge. But now, like you said, we have other stuff going on in our lives, with what it's family or work or whatever. You need to. Do all, yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
Yeah,
Escaping the dungeon, as David Thompson says, that's what it's all about with treasure.
yeah,
And you don't know how many people were in this. There may have been 25 people in this party with retainers, and only three get out. So,
yeah.
um, yeah,
That's a spiffing image of a victory
uh,
for the people. And when you see that image, you say, "Oh, okay, I get it. I get it now. But this is what it's all about."
yeah.
And it's pretty difficult to advance. When when every time I read oh, you can be a lord and you can have your own mansion or whatever, it's like I'm never gonna go there. It's like I'm gonna read it for fun, but my character's never gonna
But
survive.
eventually, if you have the same DM and your group will get a style, um,
Yeah,
like Vic's group when he's talked about his group, they start understanding the type of gameplay. And when I've watched other people or played in other games, it's hard if it's a one-off, but you'll eventually know. Okay, Max is going to have this trap. This door is always going to be trapped. That's he always. You're going to have a style of every fifth treasure is a mimic or whatever. And so
yeah,
as long as you reward your players for doing things right occasionally, yeah, you want to trip them up every once in a while so that
yeah,
they don't get too predictable. Um, but it's that push and pull, and eventually that you will they it's that push and pull between the players and the DM coming up with the game that they want, where
mm,
um, the DM sets the table of the game that they want to present. The players accept that world and they react to it. That gives the DM feedback, and they're both happy. And yes, characters die, and that's part of this first edition too. It's the thrill of, yeah. You remember when like we were playing in our game where they're trying to assault the fire giants, and the half orc fighter was getting frustrated with how, because they were spending an hour trying to figure out how they were going to get in and be sneaky, and he basically just Leroy Jenkins in. He said, and at the end of the battle, they four trolls were playing, drawing and quartering him, and it was a memorable thing. He wasn't too upset because he decided
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, I know. So yes, Vic says he's never predictable as a DM. Yeah, you're besides being deadly. Yeah, you're predictable by being deadly. So
Yeah.
you know that.
If I had him as a DM at that time, I would have said, "Well, I'm just gonna re-roll like 5 or 6 characters beforehand,
Right.
so I won't waste anybody's time." So, but it's fun if you're dying like incomprehensible
Yeah.
deaths that you did once is
Right.
like this is pretty cool though.
Well, sometimes we feel
when
that
it,
way. So
and the DMs here on this channel and all that the fans they seem to have individual styles, but they're all awesome. I mean, every time they explained it, I was like, "Wow, I wish I had a DM like that."
well,
But
I think that's part of it too. Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead, Max.
no, no, no. Even though my DM was wonderful, I mean, he was fantastic. He did a fantastic job, especially when we were just all three of us trying to plow against the rules and all that stuff. We didn't have, the luxury of having information at our fingertips like this. And sometimes the translation also in French was not exactly the same as in English. I need to point out.
Sure.
Maybe the 2.5 edition, they rectified it. But sometimes I said, no, means this in English, and then he points out, no, in the French edition, it means that. I was like, yeah, the twist of the line sometimes you can go back and forth. So yeah, so we did what we had, but yeah, all the DMs here are are wonderful, and they all have their unique styles. And I wish I could go to Florida. And there's a message for all you guys: if you're in the Florida area, go to
That's
GrogCon. I
right.
mean, I wish I could go. I'm not in the same country.
Yeah, we this is fortunately we're in Orlando, which is it's a pretty good destination. So hopefully one day, Max, we'd love to have you. Again,
Yeah,
you have the same invitation that we've given to Carlos and to Vic.
yeah.
You coming into our area. Let us know. We will set you up, and we'd be happy to have you here.
I'll I'll drop the kids off at Disney World and then I'll
That's right.
go.
That's right. Okay, so now we're ready for spell selection.
Yeah,
Uh, so this the way we do this. You roll percentiles, and let me know if you roll above a 70.
above a 7
Yeah, above a
percentage.
70. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
11.
so you have a the this is a magic user type spell scroll or spell. So roll percentages again because we're going to see if it's illusionist.
We were speaking of 7. 7.
7. Oh, so it's illusionist. Okay, great. So roll a d8.
A
This is
D8.
in honor of Dan. He'd be happy it's an illusionist spell. So
Sorry, Dan. It's me who has the honor
it's
too.
2. Okay, so now roll a d12.
And 9.
9. Today's is actually a magic user spell as well. It's Magic Mouth. Magic Mouth
Magic
is the spell of the day. Let's see, today's spell.
mouth.
So that's a second level magic user spell. And one of the modules I just went through in John's game, DM John, who I'm playing tonight with, the secret, what is it? The Sinister Secret of Salt Marsh. I forgot what it's called. The Salt Marsh, the U1. There's a monster. There's one of the bad guys who puts magic mouths everywhere. So we're on page 71 of the player's handbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So so what you can do, what's interesting, is the duration is special. And you can basically can be set on an object and speaks when the spellcaster part of the occurrence of a specific event. So it's very back to you, Max, in your work. It's very it's an event driven thing, right? Something
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
open the door, blah blah blah
Great.
blah.
you trigger it. And what's fun about this, you can have what we say if you don't want to have NPCs all the time, like why is this character standing in front of a dungeon and if you speak the magic words of the riddle, what is he immortal? No, no, no. You just place magic mouth, and
Right.
that's what I understand, if I understand correctly.
So it's just funny because it
Yeah.
says the
Yeah.
command can be as specific or general. Speak only when an octogenarian female human carrying a sack of grope clusters sits cross-legged within 1 feet. I mean, what a weird specificity that he puts in here. Just
Yeah, but well, at least he got the example right on, so it's like, oh, okay, yeah, true, okay, they're perfect. I can use it there, and a message of 25 words or
yep.
less.
That so it's a brief saying, and what I also like about it is it also does not distinguish between invisible creatures, alignments, level or dice class except by external guard. So
Mm.
this could be a way potentially to use it again, warding yourself against. You could cast Magic Mouth as a guard, because again it doesn't know it's the character, the creature is invisible.
Oh, that's perfect.
Right.
But you got yeah, that's pretty creepy for the so it's a level 2 one.
Yes, level 2, so you'd have to be a third level magic user or a third
Yeah.
level illusionist. And I'm going to see if there's any difference between the second level magic mouth for illusionist and the second level magic user. I think they're exactly the same, but sometimes the casting time or some of the other things may be a little different. Let's see.
Mm.
Magic mouth. Okay, two. It's special one object. BSM. Nope, it's exactly the same. There's
Oh,
no difference between the magic mouth of magic user or. So, have you used a magic mouth at all?
nope.
Okay.
Nope. But the imagination is stirring now. So yeah, that's pretty cool actually. That's a really nice spell. And can you is the DM allowed to maybe your expertise can can tell me about some stuff like that. Can you have the magic mouth be kind of like an alarm system?
Sure, that's exactly how it's
Yeah.
used
So
by a lot of folks.
yeah,
So in
yeah.
the
Okay.
module that DM John is playing in, when you open the door, you there's a booming ghostly voice. We're going through this old house that's on top of a sea cliff and looking off on the ocean, and whoever is there, I don't want to spoil it. Not that anyone that can't look
Mm.
up U1, but um,
Well,
that's right. Just in case someone may have not actually been through it, uh, the people who are there, you find that there's ghostly apparitions and these type of things. And if when we try to go down the cellar to the basement, when we open the cellar doors, this booming, wailing voice came and communicate things to try to basically, get out, kind of thing. Don't come in.
I would use that in so many different because I'm a kind of a wacky DM normally. I use many times stuff like that to just having a light sense of humor. I would probably imitate a voice of a character or a special uh, a person or a comedian
Right.
to mimic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and if I recall, um, but what happens is once it is done, it will stay on there until the triggering event happens.
Mm.
So at that point, it also can't be used to cast spells, which would be super ultra cool, but apparently you can't do that. But what you can do, if I remember correctly, is if you cast permanence. I think you can cast permanence. Yes, you can cast
On it.
permanents on it, and then
Wow. Okay.
so so,
But that,
so then it would be permanently there.
yeah, it always loops.
Right. It basically is a loop. Yeah. Every time the door opens, it's it
Yeah.
says welcome to the dungeon or whatever. Yeah, you're gonna die, kind of thing, and it just goes over and over again. And if I remember correctly, in Two Mahars, there's a couple of them like that.
And you're wondering what's going on. But if you don't have knowledge like myself, I don't have knowledge as extended as you guys. So if I would do something like that as a player, I was like, oh, this is creepy, or we should go back, or uh, go back to get some other provisions or something like that,
Right.
because this is kind of, yeah. Oh, and you can use it as a DM to warn the players, hey, if you turn right, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. Turn left.
Right. Well, that's right.
just,
There's all
just,
kinds of
just telling.
there's all kinds of ways you can use that. So, uh,
Because I use warnings before they die. Like if they do something really silly, many times I'm like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Like the old meme that's circulating. Are you sure you want to do that?
that's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So, are you sure you want to roll dice? So yeah, when I have normally one or two warnings saying, you're gonna do something that's really dumb, but I know that normally you should just probably let it go. It's like, you're gonna die, so whatever, or you're gonna get have a trap, or you know, run face to face with a black dragon or something.
Well, very good.
Which I
Yeah, which of course is never a good thing. Black dragons
yeah,
are can be rough if you're low level. They're uh,
yeah, I speaking of experience, I did once have that in my one of my games.
well. This is a good a segue into our in memoriam segment. So you sent me your
Oh,
character,
yeah,
um,
true.
and so maybe you can
One,
tell you about your character. You sent me his goldenrod sheet, and
yeah.
so Max, for those who don't know, is a patron of ours, or Dan and I, and part of his benefits is he can tell us about one of his characters, and we will post it on our website, which I'll do this weekend. So, Max, you send us your character. You can give us a quick
True, true.
give
Well,
us a thing about it.
yeah. Which is an NPC that I
Oh,
always use since
okay,
always add characters since my player in the past few months. It's only one player,
right.
so he needs helps, and sometimes to nudge him in the right direction because he gets haywire and he loves roleplay. He uses a half orc right now, so he plays it to a T. So it's pretty fabulous. But sometimes you need, just calm down and go this way instead of that way. But I always have a bunch of NPCs that he can encounters along the way if he survives. And this one is a fighter, and we're playing in the Forgotten Realms.
Okay.
I'm recently rereading the Forgotten Realms, first edition, and there's a bunch of stuff like that. And what he has is that well, the player doesn't know that, but he died suddenly with, I think it was a Dark Stalker.
Okay, Darkstalker.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. What happens is that the Dark Stalker, when he perishes, I think he explodes in
Okay.
one form or the. Let me see the
Is it the Fiend
Fiend
Folio? Fiend
Folio.
Folio. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Darkstalker.
Uh,
Wonderful.
yeah, I think so. It's the.
Page 23. 23.
You're fast.
This
Damn.
is
Yeah.
this is all we do for 7 months is flip pages. So it's
Yeah. Because he beat a bunch of dark creepers,
okay. Yeah.
and then he was able to get through, and there was a dark stalker there. And what happens is that, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken,
Yeah. I see it.
uh,
If you
yeah,
explode, go
kill
ahead.
the Dark Striker explodes. 3 dice fireball.
Right.
So what happened? That, yeah, he was in front of the everybody. Well, his character and the other ones, and he got most of it. So yeah, but he's still in the party. So that's a surprise for him. He said, well, he doesn't watch internet, so don't worry,
Okay.
I won't spoil it. but he keeps following the character around. He thinks he healed himself and all that stuff, but there's something wrong with him. So he's dead, but he's still around. So he'll he'll notice something weird. So that's why when we saw the ghost and possession, I was like, that's a pretty
There you
neat
go.
trick. I could,
Yeah, that would be good.
yeah,
That would be really good.
yeah.
Well,
So yeah, he died. It's my first character creation on 1E.
right.
So
I love it.
then
Yeah,
and it's I made him kill himself. I was like, oh well, how he would play it? Well, he would hit him. He doesn't know,
right.
So
Exactly. He would not. Yeah,
so yeah,
and I think that's the advantage. Unlike a lot of folks who played, you've been playing the game 25, 30, 35 years. Uh, you start understanding these. You know the creatures, and it's a challenge of the metagaming. So it's nice when you don't have that kind of you coming in with fresh eyes, and
mm,
you're exactly right. How would they know about that? And that's always a perennial tension. It's the same thing if I go, I play one of your games or play a Skyrim or whatever. Yeah, I could go online and go through the walkthrough and figure it out, um,
true,
or play it as it's supposed to be, as the creators intended it. Um, Both ways are fine. It's just what experience do you want to have, and I don't think as a DM I don't have an issue with people metagaming as long as they do it in a way that doesn't ruin the fun for others. So if you and I were
yeah,
playing and I knew that a Dark Stalker explodes, I
yeah,
shouldn't just say, "Hey Max, don't hit it, or else it'll blow up like a hit dice fireball." Perhaps my character could say, "I've heard these creatures have a powerful effect. They have evil magic that when they're about to die, they take those with us, or something like that." At least try to put it
true,
into the game, so it doesn't
true,
sound so lame.
yeah. But at least the three dice fireball, is it? It's kind of like so. It's a radius thing.
Well, it's not clear in here, but you would
Yeah,
definitely, if it says it's
since it's a fireball,
right.
I because I blew up also the dark creepers that were surrounding it
Sure.
also. So it was heroic by his side because the other creatures surrounding it were dead since it was a tight corridor. But he got most of it, so you know.
Right. And again, without it being explicit, the radius, because it said it's equal to a 3 hit dice fireball, I would rule that as
A fireball.
right, and that's a 20 foot
Yeah.
radius, if I remember correctly. So it's 40 feet across. So that's a substantial amount of damage. This is a level 4. It says creature, so you're
Mm.
between second and fourth level, and you all just got between 3 and 18 hit points of damage, with minus a save. Yeah, 20 foot radius sphere. So
Yeah. And for my for my defense, it's the player character who said, "Oh, go explore down the corridor here, and I'll stay here in the backup." So since he's a half orc, he said, if something comes in, I'll hack and slash them, and so he's the one who controls the NPCs while playing his character at one point. But I'm kind of like the arbitrator or the person of the NPCs. So I was like, oh yeah, I know what's going on there. So I'm like, okay, sure, okay, I'll go there. So, but yeah, it was a fierce battle, but he lost. So
yeah, and that happens, especially with
yeah,
one player.
but
It's really hard. You got one player.
yeah,
You can make it work. Uh,
it generally it's if you got a really good player, which I have, it doesn't matter, quite frankly, because he knows the drill and he knows how I role play and how I DM. So it goes well either side. So
Yeah, absolutely. And again, part of we're getting in the comments. There's ways to help the players if you want, especially um, if you have a magic user or someone who's versed in arcane or special
mhm.
creatures. They could maybe make a roll, or you could just tell them, yeah, this is you've heard the legend of this.
Yeah.
creature, so you can give them some idea. Again, it's so fascinating. You're in the game design business, and you mentioned um, so much of that is the skills you learned in D&D are
Yeah.
transferable. It's when do you give a clue? Do you punish players who don't, they ignore all the text, they just go right to the quest. Blah. They're pressing A on the briefing. They're not even listening. A.
Which we need to do something else for these type of players
Right.
because there are a lot of them that they don't. Normally, when they say in the reviews, that's a good story, it's about like what 20% of people who
Right.
followed it.
Yeah.
They no, I want to go from point A to point
Right.
B. That's it. That's what my challenge is.
Yeah.
So yeah, good point. Good point.
Enter, 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 enter. I don't care about your lore. I don't care about, and so again, everything you have, unlike game making, where you have an unknown audience, a multitude of people you're here. Here, you're storytelling for the six or between the 4 and 6 people,
Yeah.
or in your case, the 1 or 3 people, and you can tailor it, and you can be dynamic. If they're really interested in the lore, great, give them more lore. If they're like, I don't care, I want to get kill orcs, stop telling them about in the fourth age,
Yeah.
King Vervius second son on his mother's of the third wife did this. No one cares. Uh, right. I can't. You can't. Yeah. So okay, great. So that's that. I appreciate that, and I will post your character on our in memoriam page so people can see that.
Yeah.
So now we are in our word of recall segment, which we're doing our playing with class series, and so Max has graciously come out, and we are on the Paladin. Um,
Yes, indeed.
so the Paladin is the first subclass of fighter. Last week we talked about the fighter with our Chamberlain David Thompson from Australia. We had a great conversation, and so today we're going to talk about the Paladin. It is the first subclass, uh, which again is I personally have a lot of affinity for the Paladin. I think the Paladin's great. So, Max, have you played a Paladin before? What do you know about it? And we'll start with that.
I haven't played a paladin, but one of my players, when I was a player, also played one, and I was a thief. Oops.
Ah,
So that didn't mix well. But a paladin, I really, really do enjoy. It's just that people tend to, as you mentioned, I think in your podcast before, they're they're good to a fault, but people are tending to play them a little bit naive and silly
right.
because they're too good, too goody two shoes. But a paladin is basically how can I describe it? A holy knight. That's it. That's a holy knight, and paladin is by definition also, correctly if I'm wrong, everybody on the net, but it's wandering knight also. So that's why you always they mention stuff about the paladin always alone and not have any you know any characters following him. Not NPC, not PCs, but how do you say them in English?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Retainers or followers or
Exactly.
yeah.
Thank you. And the image in the player's handbook is perfectly from Sutherland is perfectly
That's right.
illustrated. I
Yes, that's
think
right. The
in
Paladin in
hell. Yeah,
Hell. That's right. Uh,
that's perfect.
which
Yeah,
which
that's the one.
which we that may be a spoiler for our tournament. We've talked about the module we want to run. Dan is working on it, so um, that is one way to play it. Kind of the lone
Yeah.
avatar, holy fighter, the almost the Sir Galahad who goes off on his own after all the other knights of the Round Table are lose the quest for the Holy Grail. Um, the I think what's interesting, just like the fighter, like we talked about last week, there's this idea depending on how people have played it wherever we
Mm.
play, and that becomes sealed with it. But there's definitely latitude. The rules
Oh yeah.
allow for the paladin to have henchmen. Um, they don't get a body of men at arms, and they're not probably going to build uh, a stronghold per se. But you could also allow that they may be aligned with a holy order. Uh,
Yeah, Knight Templars were
right.
a basic example of yeah.
That's a good example of one. So let's just I think um, the experience I've seen with the paladin kind of end up with people play the paladin because they're very powerful at first level. Uh, they have a lot of abilities that are very useful. The ability to detect evil. We'll talk about. They make saving throws at +2 per dice. So fighters generally have very poor saving throws at early level, so that kind of evens the playing field. They are immune to all forms of disease. They can heal themselves at 2 hit points per level. Um, they can cure disease, which again, cure disease is a 4th level cleric spell. They have protection from evil just emanating from them. There's just a lot of, and then as they progress in level, you get some really cool things like they can turn undead, which again, if you listen to our cleric session, you wouldn't have heard about turning undead. So I'll have to explain it real quick. Turning undead is the power of your deity, the character's deity, whether good or evil. In this case, good, can repel undead based on the level of the character, and you make a roll almost like a to hit, and based on your level, you have the ability to affect certain undead. The higher level you are, better than the better chance you have. So they're basically a combination of a fighter and a cleric, but you're not paying that much premium for the experience. I mean, it's definitely a premium. To go to second level is 27.51.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's one of the downfalls. I think it's a huge step. I mean, for
and it,
but
anyway, go ahead.
playing the paladin. I mean, playing the paladin must be a lot of fun because you're doing basically your deity's work,
Right.
and you're his right hand. You're his might. You want to do what's right, what's lawful, what's good, because he's lawful good. And I would play one immediately, but I never got the stats for it because it's pretty huge. Because charisma 17, that's a lot of that's for a beginning. But at least I think you can progress your fighter to go to that class if he's lawful good, right? If you progress enough the fighter and you have wishes that you can gain the necessary stats, I think you can probably go as a paladin if you get a mentor or something.
Right.
Am I right,
I think so.
or
Yeah.
or you need to be created that way, and that the character needs to be created that way.
Which say that again, Max? I'm sorry, I was typing.
Or Yeah, no problem. I was wondering if the fighter can evolve to a paladin.
So, well, it depends what rules you use. I think in first edition, we don't have this kind of 0 level to first level. You become a first level player, and
Yeah,
you start out as a paladin, and the only thing you can do is go backwards. In other words, if you fall from
yeah.
yes,
What I, that's as I was wondering, because if you can go backwards, because if he does something evil and he goes back, he goes from paladin to fighter. I was wondering if fighter could go to paladin if he does everything good.
I've not seen it that way, but you could rule that as the DM. I think that
Yeah, I mean, but I was wondering if in the rules, but because yeah, like you mentioned, you can go a downfall from the paladin,
yeah.
but you can't have a fighter that goes good, has wishes and gets his taps up, and then he says, "Hey, I want to be a first level paladin. I want to." I don't think that's mentioned
Yeah,
anywhere.
what I think the only way legally you could do that, which would be really weird, is you dual class. Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. David Thompson got beat me
Oh,
to it. So you could, if you had the stats or you got the stats. So let's say you started as a fighter,
Yeah.
and fighter stats are basically you need a minimum strength of 9, a
Yeah.
constitution of 7. But let's say you didn't have the wisdom for it, but then you earned the
Yeah.
wisdom and you had all the other stats. You could, because humans, they're the only people who could dual class. You could
Yeah.
then, if you were lawful good, you could become a paladin at that point. That would be the way I would do it.
And finally, humans don't get the short end of the stick right now because they're the only people who can go to paladins.
In this book, in the first edition book. So
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah.
book that shall not be named. Uh,
Oh, yeah, that's
yeah. So that also talks about the 0 level. So in the book that shall not be named, um, there's because paladins are a subclass of the cavalier, and the idea of it
oh,
being a noble
yeah.
fighter.
Oh, okay.
We
Okay.
don't use that word, uh,
No.
Vic. Yeah.
No.
So
That I understand. Yeah.
so Vic's saying he said the name of the book that shall not be named. And in the Cavalier class, you actually start at level 0, and you have a number of experience points before you become level 1. So there's
Okay.
these kind of under levels that you go through.
I should get that book and see what difference.
Yeah,
Do
look, I don't.
you recommend the book?
Right. I don't have a problem with the book. I think the problem becomes there's a lot of, and we've talked about it. We've talked about it with Vic. We've talked
Yeah.
about it with David. We've talked about it with everyone. There's things in it that you'd like the players to have as long as you understand how that changes the game. But
Yeah.
then there are other things that may not fit with your game, and it's to me it's like Oriental Adventures or some of these other things. Just because it's in a codified book doesn't mean the DM has to say it's part of their game.
Yeah.
It's the same problem you would have with, you know, I have this idea for a campaign. I want to do this. I think this is. Do you want to play? Yes. Oh, I want to be an elf cavalier. No, there are no elf cavaliers. Why not?
No.
Well, but in the book that shall not be named, you can be an elf cavalier.
Yeah. Okay, but I understand your principle because I really enjoyed this system in its entirety, and I think, like you said, it's all intertwined, so it all works together. But if you add some special rules, like Oriental Adventures or whatever, I think yeah, it could break the game, your current campaign.
Yeah, you just
Start a new campaign. If you're
right.
using those, start a new campaign.
Or do something I'm looking into doing is because I inherited the campaign. My new campaign
Yeah.
may only be for 6 or 7 sessions, and I may just if it's in a published book, knock yourself out. We're in a cosmopolitan city, basically the New York or London or Paris of D&D. Everything's available. Knock yourself out. As long as it's in a published book, you can do it.
Oh.
You want to be a drow, cleric, assassin, whatever, great, don't care. Because we're not going to play this for 3 years where I got to deal with it. We'll have fun, get it out of our systems. It's kind of like when people want to play evil characters. I don't think most people
Yeah.
want to play evil characters all the time. They just want to play
No.
it, get it out of their system, and do that. So, the Paladin,
Yep.
one of the things that I remember, when I first got this book, we talked about the holy sword. I'm like, there's a holy sword just for the paladin? That's amazing.
Yes.
And they can get a warhorse. They can summon. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Everyone else is kind of meh. Cleric, the first one you read, it's okay. Cast spells, healing, that's good. Druid, meh. Fighter, I know that. All of a sudden, and of course, you think it doesn't. As a player, and being whatever 10 years old or 11 when I first got this book, I'm like, oh, 4th level, I'll get my horse. Holy sword, I'll get it 5th level. It doesn't say that, but it's like, oh, I'm gonna get a +5 holy. It does, because it doesn't say what plus it is. It just says it's a holy sword, and the DMG would later tell you, it's a holy avenger. I'm like, so I think I told my DM, who of course was not much older than me. I think he was a year or 2 older. I'm like, okay, I'm 5th level. How can I get my holy sword? And he looked at me like I was had a third eye or something.
Yeah, the Holy Avenger. It's not even a cool. It's not just a cool title, but all the stuff that's going on.
Right.
it could be a campaign on its own to get it,
Right.
kind of like
It should
the
be.
sword,
Absolutely.
the go ahead, yeah, the sword in the stone kind type of
Right.
thing, and your referencing Legend of Zelda
Right.
here, the Master Sword,
Right.
you know.
But
Basically, this is the Master Sword, basically from Legend of Zelda for you new gamers of D&D.
and that's where that's one of the things a lot of times DMs, because especially if you have a campaign where you are um, having to prepare every week or every two
Yeah,
weeks, you can get into a grind um, because and so sometimes these opportunities to really make a quest or almost a mini campaign to your point, you because you're berated by your players. It's like,
yeah,
oh, we're underpowered, or we need this, or we need that. You forget these opportunities. So some examples are, people in the comments. Yeah, this could be a mini campaign. You hear about these legends, or a great evil is you're going to have to deal with in a few levels. Again, you don't know the idea of levels, but there's this dark force that you're going to have to deal with at some point, and the prophecy says you have to uh, you'll need this weapon from your deity to do that. I've in the campaign I'm running, where again I have this dwarf paladin and everyone's screaming because it's blasphemy, but I inherited from Dan. Thanks, Dan. Um,
ah,
uh, the character's like, well, yeah, we're gonna have to go into the Underdark, all these chaotic evil creatures. Boy, a holy avenger would be great. But his
yeah,
character
but
his character uses hammers, so he wants a holy avenger dwarven hammer kind of thing.
that's what I was gonna say is like, yeah, but if they use hammers, or does the Holy Avenger is it one hand?
Well, it
Is it two hand?
well it
The,
what it does not say, the holy avenger in the DMG, if I recall, it does not
yeah,
specify the type of. So you'd have to roll it
no,
randomly. It could be a holy sword. It doesn't feel right. You think like it should be a bastard sword or a giant weapon, but or a broadsword, or as our David Thompson, our friend, likes to have. Most likely, it's a long sword because seventy
yeah,
percent of all magic swords are that.
okay, yeah, because again, the book that shall not be named, it's a Pandora box
That.
because, like you said, he's like, oh, you're a dwarf paladin, okay, sure, but if you roll that it's a long sword, and dwarves normally cannot wield no, not I mean a bastard sword or a
Right.
two-handed sword, but dwarves cannot wield those,
Right.
right? So
Exactly.
you need to change the rules again.
Yep.
So
And so what I would argue, and I think I talked about this, I may have talked about this in another podcast, but again, the idea of this. So I think So we talked about some of the bonuses it has. Let me finish up some of the things.
yeah,
So those are the cool things. Now here's some of the not cool things. First of all, they can only have 10 magic items. They can
yeah,
have one suit of armor, one shield, four weapons, and four other magic items. And you think 10?
mm-hmm,
That seems to be a lot. Well, if you play what I'll call the normal AD&D, it's very easy to get tons of magic items. It's again back to the Diablo thing. You just get tons
yeah,
and tons of these things, and so it's very easy to do that. They are not to retain wealth. They only keep
yeah.
themselves and their I guess they can build a small castle uh, if you
But
want to do it.
how do you get as much gold as possible when you have to give away all your? Can you keep that gold for building a safe house or a castle or whatever? Because if you need to get back to well give this amount, the exceed amount, you can never save up, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, that's one of the challenges with this is besides the cleric and the druid. The cleric is probably there. But saying paladin is one of those where you have the immediate potential tension between the DM and the player. Unlike the magic user, if they want to cast a fireball in a village and burn everyone down, um, there's in-game repercussions, and you're gonna have to build a story that the
Mm.
outlaws are going to come kill you, or the king is going to kill you.
Yeah.
Here, you're going to constantly have to deal with, again, that's a great example of you're the player. Hey, we just got 5,000 gold pieces. Okay, yes, I understand. I have to immediately tie 10% of my income to the
Yeah.
church or whatever religious institution. You can't give it to another. You can't give it to the player character's cleric who's in the party. Uh, but um, but let's say the player says, well, yeah, I want to maintain a small castle, so can I keep that? You go, well, you don't have a small castle now. Well, I want to build it later. No, that doesn't
Yeah.
sound right. And so you have a lot of these things as a DM you're going to have to deal with that you don't have to deal with a thief or a magic user or more of these other classes.
And that can get pretty that's can get in good situations with the other players. I mean, not players but player characters, which is if you have someone who he's good but he loves gold, he wants to get a good life out of it, and he sees the paladin just giving it away. It's like, give it to me then.
Right, right, exactly.
Can he give it to one of his
No,
party members? Probably not. No,
no.
no.
His idea is, the way it's perceived here, the traditional way is, they are the, they're the holy fighters of their
Yeah,
religion, and they
yeah.
would only give that money to promote the deity that of their choice. They wouldn't be giving it to their player characters, even though it may
That
help them. And that's another tension. Um,
is fun.
so your character
You
needs to
can play
go.
around with it.
Yeah, your character needs to go up in level. Um,
Yeah,
I have extra money, let's say, because I'm a paladin. It's
yeah,
taking me forever to go up in levels, and that's another thing. Do they have to give all their money away? Well, if they do, then they won't have money to
yeah,
train. Well, that doesn't make sense. They're gonna hold on to the money. But let's say they had extra money. You need money to train, or you need some armor. Hey, I appreciate that, but no, I'm not giving that to you. You're going to have to get it yourself. Your God, if your God's so great, He should provide for you. My God is great, so that kind of
oh
thing.
wow. Change religion.
Right. But that's really
Yeah,
part and parcel to it. When I was younger, we didn't really put the uh, we just focused on the holy fighter. But
yeah,
whether he was a paladin of Thor, we didn't really lean into that. It was just more of, yeah, he's got to be a good guy. He does good things. But they should be, zealots. They should be
yeah,
completely, fully engaged in that because they're the tip of the spear of their deity,
yeah,
of that. Which again,
yeah,
as you said, could blend yourself into the lawful stupid kind of thing, where you're just, yay, my death is glorified for my God, and then you're ripping up your first level character again.
yeah. But I mean, when you play it right, it must be so much fun to play a paladin. I mean, you don't play it like a, how can I say it? Don't play like someone who didn't get an education. I mean, he's got 17 charisma. I mean, he got around and he had help from people getting where he is right now in his class. So to play it, the best example of a paladin very wasted is a video game called probably the viewers know about it. Iron and Blood. It was the Warriors of Ravenloft. It was a 3D fighting game on PlayStation 1.
Oh wow,
And
okay.
and the paladin there was so silly. And well, all the characters were silly. I mean, a spoiler ahead. Um, you fight against
Oh yeah,
Strad van Zarovic,
yeah.
and at the end, the way it finishes up, Strad forgets what time it is, and the sun comes up. And you're like, what, Strad? So every character played like a dumb version of the character, and the paladin there was such a wow,
A
just
caricature of themselves. Yeah.
yeah, caricature, yeah, perfectly, yeah. So that's why when you play it well, it must be awesome. But if you play it well, play it a little bit more on the side of comedy, then you get your Iron and Bloods type of character.
Yeah, and so part of that being a paladin, because I've only finished, so personally you get all these cool abilities, but you have to give your money away.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with that. Then here's the thing that I've seen games. Um, most games don't force this, which is Paladins will have henchmen of lawful good alignment and none other. They will only
Mm.
associate with characters of good alignment. Paladins can join a company of adventurers which contain non-evil neutrals only for the single adventure, and in
What?
some end which will further the cause of lawful good is purposed. So I've played for 35 years. I think I've seen that done once. Because, again, it's session 0. You guys are getting together. You have your friend, there's you, and I say, okay, what's your friend's name, if you don't mind me asking?
Christian.
Cassette?
Christian.
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 Okay, so what I'm gonna be a thief. Okay, great. And then you say I want to
Yeah.
be a paladin. Well, now we already have potentially a problem. Now he could be a good thief, and we've talked
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. And but the DM was able to intertwine that for one adventure,
Yeah.
and I was when you got a skillful DM, you can incorporate the storyline with at least for one adventure,
Sure.
and that's what he did. It was a competition of saying who the next champions of the crown will be, and everybody from around the kingdom, the warriors were all teaming up, teams of 2, and of course we were the 2 left behind. So okay, you two, you get the signs. I was like, oh, so we're obligated to be with each other, and the paladin, when the player character played his paladin's like, no, this is an outrage. I saw him stealing stuff. I can't play with the. But for the benefit of the cause, the greater good,
Right.
he said, okay, for once I'll do my stuff.
Yeah.
So for one adventure, it's fun. At least you get this chance to do it right, and then you part your separate ways after that. What you do? One of the characters retired.
Right. Well, that's it.
Retired.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. Or you have this situation where, you know, you don't know the alignment of people. Again, we'll talk about detect evil in just a second. But
Yeah.
you know, how unless their actions were overt, maybe the thief is hiding his alignment for a while. But eventually,
Yeah.
the DM has to decide: are they going to follow this rule, or they're not going to follow this rule? Because if you have a large group, they are going to. There's going to be that moment where there's going to be a party member who's neutral of alignment. Again, Druid is an example. Magic users may or may not be. Of course, they can be any alignment. Some player characters would want to play a neutral character. They don't want to play the good guy. They don't want necessarily be the evil guy. But you can't have a party in theory with a druid and a paladin for more than one adventure. And
True.
it also says, and only if it's for some end which will further the cause of lawful good. You could infer that, and then the last one says, if possible, paladins will take service or form an alliance with lawful good characters, whether players or not, who are clerics or fighters. So you could infer that really the only time, part of it is, why is this paladin going into the dungeon to get treasure? That really doesn't make any sense. Yep. So you're potentially restricting the type of adventures that you have.
Yeah.
And so I think people, when they see the first part, they go, oh, this is super cool. They don't read the second part. It's kind of like when you,
well,
text.
You turn the page,
Right. Yeah, you didn't turn the page on that. Sorry. That's right.
So that's why people just say, oh, there's cool art right there. It finishes there. All right. Yeah, but turn the page. There are other stuff in the other side.
So
yeah.
So one of the big skills, which of course is overly abused, is the detect evil. Because, when I first saw this, when I was a kid, they can detect evil at 60-foot radius as often as desired, but that's where we stopped. We always stop at the comma. We don't continue.
Mm-hmm.
So, first adventure, they remember that. They're standing in front of the guy who's the quest giver. And the paladin goes, I want to detect evil. So there's a couple of problems with that. Do you are you aware of the problems, or have you had that experience, and how have you dealt with that?
Myself, no, because I never had as a DM, I never had a player character
Oh,
who was
oh
Paladin
yeah,
because rolled there was rolled stats below, so they never. That's why I asked the question last time because if you can evolve to a Paladin, but no. As for the other quests, when I was playing as a thief and the other person Christian was playing a Paladin, that was second edition. So probably it's different second edition from first edition. But if it was first edition, it would have been like one shot, one deal
right.
for this one. But eventually, after the first adventure, um, my teeth got in more, say, less less evil and more good because he was influenced a little bit, and also because we wanted to keep our characters,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
needed to so I put a little water in my wine. I said, okay, I'm gonna go a little bit more to the good side to accommodate. But we had a lot of fun. I mean, with that quest lasted years and years, but it was second edition, so I think it's more like I don't know if there's as much restriction on the paddle than in the second
Well,
edition than the first.
yeah, I think there's definitely changes to it. Some of the uh, even in the Dragon magazines at the time,
Yeah.
they allowed, Paladin was lawful good. Um,
Mm,
and in Dragon 36, they talk about the anti-Paladin, um, which
I
is,
heard.
yeah, so which is the chaotic evil version of it,
Mm,
who's powerful but cowardly and like is cruel and everything else. So you can read about the anti-Paladin, and then in Dragon 106, if I remember correctly, or 108, um, they came out with a Paladin for every alignment. Um,
oh, really?
yeah.
Okay.
So in the book that shall not be named, they are still just the one archetype, which is the lawful good one. But again, I have the second edition books. I've never. I think
Uh,
I played once or twice back in the day. I don't know if they allow for the multiple versions.
I don't think
Right.
so, but I'm. It's been too off. That's why I was reading back a while back. I was rereading them to get more info, but I'm not there yet. So you know.
So,
And by the way, sorry, my main man cave has a lot of water
yeah.
pipes, and you hear the washing machine. So if you hear a lot of noise on my end, it's the washing machine. Sorry about that.
I just thought people were waking up and using the toilet, so that's okay too.
No, that's no, that's a washing machine. Sorry about that.
So with detect evil, they always want to go around and detect evil and not uh, uh, be. They want to be sneaky because again, here's a paladin, virtuous, right? A holy knight has a chivalric code, and that's enforced in the book that should not be named. But they always want to be like, all right, I'm talking to Max. I want to detect evil without him noticing. And it says here,
Yeah.
well, there's two issues with that. So one is it says they have to concentrate, and as we've talked about before, concentration is not just a 5-second thing. It's at least a round. For some concentrations, it could be up to 10 minutes, depending on what you're doing. But I would say it's a round, which means they're concentrating. They're not doing anything else. They're not still talking, and this. And then when you go
Uh,
into detect evil, is a very interesting thing. You've got the player's handbook definition from the cleric's first level spell, which is pretty broad, but if you go into the DMG, which is kind of the cold shower of Dungeons and Dragons, because the player's handbook makes it sound great. Oh, we can do this and
yeah.
that, and then you go into it. So under detection of evil and or good on page 60, um, it says when you're doing detect evil or good, uh, exactly.
Oh.
So it says the characters who are strongly aligned do not strain from their faith, and a relatively high level might radiate evil or good. So if you're trying to detect the thief at first level if he's evil, um, that's not going to work, and you should not allow that.
Yeah.
This is for people who are listening to this podcast. The way detect evil works for the paladin, it's meant to be a great evil.
Oh. I Oh, I'm sorry. I need to just check on my kids. They're screaming. I'll be right back.
Okay,
One
that
minute.
sounds
Okay,
good.
sorry about.
No,
Hey, it's it's
it's
happening
it's
right now.
live.
I'm
It's live TV.
right.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so I'm here by myself now, folks. Anyway, so when Max is doing that, so when you detect evil, you have to concentrate for a round, which in first edition is 1 minute, and you have to. It's not going to give you all the information that the players want, which, like with a lot of things, there's the tension between what they want and what they don't want. One of the other funny stories that we had from our recent campaign was it will give you the level of evil, which again is it. I think in the player's handbook it talks about whether it's moderate evil, or I'm sorry, that's in the DMG under the spell explanations.
I'm back.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
it's no problem.
You know, 4 kids in the house. That's what happens.
That's right. I get it. That's why I only have one left. So they've grown up and gotten out. So I was just talking more about detect evil. So there was a funny story in one of our games where I was playing a paladin. I inherited the paladin, and in the spell explanation on page 41. Uh, so quick background. We were playing the B2 Keep of the Borderlands. We're playing the Caves of Chaos. I've run the Caves of Chaos at least 10 times for various people. I know it inside out. I show up. I want to play in this game. They say, "Oh, great! Welcome to the group." They ask me, "Do I want to roll a character?" No. You guys are playing. I'll just give me a character. I said, "Okay, this guy made a character. He's gone. It's a paladin. Great. I'll play the paladin." Where are we playing? B2. Keep on the Borderlands. I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, I'm gonna not say anything to anything.
No.
So where are we? Oh, we're in Cave K, which I think is in the back. It's the hard. It's got all the bad creatures in it. And just as I get there, the party had ended. They're looking down and they see this ancient door, and it looks like a crypt, which I know is spoiler. It's the whites in there. So
Oh, okay.
of course I can't tell them that. I don't want to say,
No.
"Hey everyone, there's a white in there." We don't have. Oh, by the way, more metagaming. You can't defeat a white except for turning, because we didn't have a magical weapon. You can only hit them if you have a magical weapon. None of the party had a magical weapon, so this is a disaster about to happen.
Were you a paladin at that time?
I'm sorry.
Were you a paladin
Yes,
at that time?
I took another character's. I took a character that had been rolled by another player who stopped playing. I'm playing the paladin.
Yeah.
So I decide I'm going to detect evil in the towards the door, and hopefully the part that it'll come back with this tremendous evil. So I'll say, "Oh, we don't want to go in there. We're low level characters." So this way I don't tell people, "Hey, there's a white. We don't have magic weapons. We're gonna die." So Dan looks it up because he had not DM'd a lot. So he looks up in page 41 and it says detect evil for first level spells. Basically the degree of evil and its general nature. So he's kind of sitting there going, is it faint, moderate, strong, or overwhelming? So he says, "Oh, it's a moderate evil." And we're all like, I'm like, moderate evil? Again, I know it's a white. They're like, "Oh, moderate evil. That can't be that bad. Moderate's not too bad. It's not horrible. It's pretty low on the scale compared to faint, moderate, strong, or overwhelming. It's level 2. So by me detecting evil, that actually made the party want to go in there because like, oh, we can handle moderate evil. Then of course, it's a disaster. My character gets level drained. Another one gets level drained. We're 0 level. And so later I go, "Dan, how'd you come up with moderate evil? It's a white. It would kill us all. This is a powerful creature for us first level characters." He said, "Well, on the grand scheme of things, right, from an archdevil, Asmodeus, to a skeleton, it's kind of in the middle. I said, yeah, but for us, it's might as well be Asmodeus. We couldn't handle it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you have to decide, is this relative evil or absolute evil? So yes, on the absolute scale, it's moderate. On the relative to us, it was super powerful. So anyway, that's so when you hear us.
Okay, okay. Oh, okay. So that's how it. Oh, okay. I would have got. Yeah, I would have probably did the same error.
Well,
By
it's not
error.
really an
I mean,
error. It's just it's different
no.
scales. It's like if I told you, we were driving 55. Are we driving
Yeah,
kilometers or miles? Right. That's a huge
yeah.
difference.
True. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, yeah. That. Oh, gee. Okay.
But it's so every time we talk about modern evil, that's where that came from because one man's not too evil is super evil.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Depending on the level of the characters, and how many were you in the
Well,
party?
there was about six of us, and but
Oh, gee.
yeah,
Okay.
there was. I've run groups with now 10 or 12. Vic has huge groups over there, so there's players out there, Max. You just need to.
Yeah.
You got to find time between four kids. I get
Fine
it.
time.
That's
Yeah.
always the challenge. So detect evil is a great power, but like with a lot of things, you have to kind of limit it. So uh, the problem, of course, with paladins is they are what they are. They're lawful good. We have this idea they should follow a code. Again, the
Mm-hmm.
idea of Sir Galahad, this holy knight on a quest. Um,
Yeah.
they're here to vanquish evil, and again, one of my big takeaways for people who are playing this: if you don't provide a pantheon of deities for them to follow, then you're dealing with another challenge that the player and the DM have is this moral relativism. So
Okay.
the story of oh yes, and protection from evil, super powerful. So they have protection from evil, 10-foot radius. So protection from evil in first edition, the play anything that's evil, it gets -2 to your armor class, and you get a bonus to save if I remember correctly. Protection from evil, and it's equal to a third level cleric spell. So they have a third level cleric spell on all the time. They don't have to do anything for it.
There's a lot of balance. That's what I like about the paladin. Yeah, you have all these cool stuff, but you need to
Oh,
counterbalance
sorry, it's
everything.
fourth level spell.
But four?
Yeah, it's fourth level spell. My apologies.
Oh. So you have a lot of bonuses for the counterbalances. I mean, you get a lot. Well, you got some negativity, but you got so much stuff going on that you're rewarded in some way for all that.
Right. Well, as long as you do it. And also,
Yeah,
yeah,
play stuff.
+2 to saves. If for instance, yeah, third level magic user spell, fourth level cleric, which doesn't make any sense. You would think it would be the opposite. But also protects you against summoned creatures. So we had a situation, or in the game I'm running, my son, who now has a 9th level wizard, magic user, cast
Wow.
an earth elemental. Sounds great, but every round there's an opportunity for the creature to go berserk, lose control, and want to attack
Okay.
the summoner
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah.
So if you have protection from evil on, or you have a magic circle, they can't get to you, even though they're the super powerful creature. So protection from evil, very powerful.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
But
You see that I didn't grasp, but that's a good way. But does it protect the evil from everybody in the surrounding areas, or just yourself?
Well, if it's the first,
like the wizard, if he's near you, is he okay, or
if it's within 10 feet of you,
feet?
for
Yeah.
for the
Okay.
paladin spell. Now there is a protection from
Yeah.
evil, which is just it literally goes around your person. It would not protect other
Yeah.
people directly.
Okay. Perfect for him though.
And
Okay.
it only prevents physical attack. In other words, the creature can't grab you. There's a barrier.
Yeah.
But if they have a fireball or have some other way to attack you, they can do
Okay.
that.
Perfect. Okay.
They can't physically touch you as long as you're
Yeah.
in the protection. So that's what makes
Okay.
protection from 10-foot radius for the paladin that he emanates so powerful. Basically, everyone hugs around him. They get -2 to their armor class, and they get +2 to saves. And they're protected from devils and demons, anything that's
Yeah.
summoned like that. So very powerful. If they have high strength, they're great fighters, but they have a lot of restrictions. And if you have an antagonistic DM or a DM who's going to really try to play this, I call it right, hold them to this creed, you get
Yeah.
these moral dilemmas that other
Mm-hmm.
characters don't have. The Kobold babies, as an example. Now, I rule kobolds and orcs and goblins. They are unredeemable creatures. They are not uh, products of their environment that can be raised and be happy. They're sharks. Sharks eat. They're not going to be vegetarians. Sharks are sharks. They eat meat. That's what they do. They can't become vegetarians. Now, if in your game, you could make them, where they're a product of the environment, well, then slaughtering innocent children is a problem.
Yeah.
Slaughtering prisoners in an inhumane way without a
Yeah.
trial is a problem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And all these little transgressions, because if you have a serious derivation, you will be stripped of your paladinhood and you become a normal fighter. And actually,
Fighter. Yeah.
so that's
But
a huge deal.
you keep your abilities, right?
Yeah.
Your strength. Yeah. Except you lose all your advantages.
Right.
Yeah.
And you
Okay.
could argue now again uh, if you were a mean DM, you could argue that they're a normal fighter, but they still have to use the paladin experience table. That would be a jerk move, but you could do that.
Oh, that's harsh.
Right, right. They're penalized for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I've seen, Max, is you get the paladin who's the jerk character, the lawful stupid like you talked about. Um,
Well, I like using that term, but there's nothing else that comes to mind. I
right,
mean, that's why people are tend to leave the paladin behind. But I find them so cool because first of all, they're in the fighter branch, so I like fighters, and they have a bunch of advantages, and it's a pretty good way to start role playing if you have a good role player that has a decent fix on
yeah,
ideas and grasp the mythology of where of this character. I mean, and he's Dinty. I mean, that's perfect. I mean, I would so have liked to play that, but like I say, my roles for my abilities never showed any sign of being a paladin.
Well, and I think the way I've been drawn to paladins because we at least I hope we tend to think of ourselves as good people. Generally, we follow the rule,
Hopefully,
right? We follow the rules. We live in society, but we are powerless in many ways to do something about injustices. So you can really play a character who leans into that, but then there are these moral quandaries, and that's what makes it fun. What are
yeah.
you going to do when there's a price to pay? And
Hmm.
but then the DM, if he's a sadist, like some of the DMs that that come on this bit, some of they're going to put in moral quandaries like do you save the children but they're going to cause the party to be attacked more by the orcs because they're
What?
slowed down with that, those type of things, and a good DM is going to put you in those moral quandaries of that.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the event, but you also get the paladin, the player, who's kind of a annoying or a jerk, and just like the thief who steals from each of the party members, going, well, that's my character.
Yeah.
Um,
Always points the finger. Always, hey, you did that. Yeah.
uh, you know, the paladin goes, yeah, the party's trying to sneak into an area, and the paladin goes, for glory and honor, and he just goes in and announces to the thing, we're here to lay siege or whatever, and they're like, what are you doing? We're gonna get slaughtered. Hey, I'm just playing my character, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You need to counterbalance, or both. both DM and player needs to be, or have just a little small talk before the campaign starts.
Right.
You know, to accommodate everybody's character and to have a decent feel of everything, and also warn the other players. Also, he's a paladin. Da da da. Maybe you don't know, but the paladin is. That's well. I don't know. Would it be better if the player wouldn't know, or
Yeah.
what a paladin does, and he gets surprised every time, or should you metagame and say, hey, that's what a paladin is beforehand, so they then don't get a surprise and they don't get frustrated about the other player.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, people should know what. I mean, again, it's there's
It's a
your
player's guide.
characters are going to know what a paladin is, or at least the idea of a holy warrior. They may not know
Mm,
the holy warrior
true.
for Thor or Ares, not
Yeah,
Ares. Thor may not be lawful good. He may be chaotic good. Whoever the
probably. I don't have the
Ares, the deity is a
the
demigod, so you pick a random lawful good deity here. Um,
that I don't have that book.
Yeah. So Vishnu, that would be kind of cool, right? You have an Indian deity, Vishnu, god of mercy and light, lawful good. You know, assuming in your milieu, people know, uh, well, that's right. Vic, call him like that is my name. Vic is calling me a coward, which is true. I am a coward.
Oh,
My characters are cowards. But if the players would know that, assuming they're in the world and they've seen Vishnu the god, they would know the type of holy fighters that
yeah,
that the deity
true.
would have. I think you don't want to have surprises for that. And I think the thing that we didn't do in the past that I would encourage DMs and the thing is, again, sit with your players, make sure they understand their deity, flesh out their deity. What are the tenets?
Yeah.
What are the tenets of your deity when it comes to honor? So that
Hmm.
you're not making the arbitrary. You're letting as a Vicism, they're signing their own death warrants. Let them come up
Yeah.
with their code, and when they violate the code, it's not you arbitrarily making a code of honor. They're the ones doing it, and unfortunately, if you most people don't want to put that much time into their characters. They just want to show up and play.
Yeah, true. But what happens? One of the best things about AD&D is this chart right here.
Yes, that's right. The classic. So,
Yeah,
so,
that's all that it gives. I mean,
so for those,
just
hold on.
look at it and you know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I love the aspects of alignment and all that stuff. That's why probably the Paladin always intrigue me, because they're the ones that say, you have to be like this, otherwise your bonuses are, well, your advantages are down.
Right.
So maybe that's why I'm interested in them.
Well, and what Max is talking about on page 119 of the Player's Handbook,
Yeah, sorry about that.
well, because we do a podcast as well of this.
Yeah,
So, in the Player's Handbook, the character alignment graph is
true.
what, you should be having those conversations. Uh,
Yeah.
that people understand that, and I think those are what make the game. There were what's interesting is back in the day, there were mechanics that forced storytelling, and eventually it led to the additions that promoted storytelling.
Yeah, true.
The game forces the storytelling. You have the moral quandary, and you force the paladin to make tough decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now you have players who come for story first, but then they sometimes forget the game aspect
Yeah,
of it.
yeah,
Which
true.
which I'm still part of the. I like role playing with the ROLE, but I primarily want to play a game. ROLL. I want to roll dice
Yeah,
and kill
yeah.
orcs, get treasure, and have a story that's interesting. Not sit around and create a fiction that's not based in some groundwork together. I
It is a game after all. I
Right.
mean, gotta be involved and not sitting around and say, well, of course you got many players in your group. That's why sometimes maybe people can tend to go, well,
And there are people
I
who
don't.
want to storytell, and and I would argue there are
That's okay.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and
Also,
there are game systems that support that better than
get this.
AD&D First Edition.
Yeah.
Um, and so,
Agree.
and I've played some of them, and they're a lot of fun. Paranoia is a kind of an old school example. The rules are almost irrelevant. You're basically trying to backstab each other and kill each other in weird and crazy ways. It's really a storytelling event, and even promotes, hey, do something dramatic. Dramatic is way better than tactical combat,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
wonderful. There's a lot of James, this is why you give the prologue to the adventure before the actual gameplay. Absolutely, yeah. Um, Couching this and knowing your players. Again, I think that's the greatest
Yeah.
advice that, in my experience, and Vic has said this, and David said this, and Dan said this. Know your players. If your players are
Hmm.
hack and slashers, they want to play Diablo, but they want to play it with their friends. Don't give
True.
them, political intrigue. It's gonna drive them crazy. Yeah, everyone reads and
True.
understands at different rates. Everyone's got different things. So,
Yeah.
anything else about the Paladin that you wanted to talk about, Max, on your research?
Me, since I'm a newbie in this game system, no, I think I personally got in all my questions, and you answered them every single one of them.
Good,
So
good.
that's for me, anyways. I don't know if you there's so much to talk about probably that I don't know about because I'm rereading everything. Every time I finish a book, I reread it again.
Yeah.
So for the phrasing and all that stuff, and intertwining the player's handbook with the dungeon master guide. So yeah,
Well, wonderful. Okay, so we're now on our next part, which is our suggestion segment.
yeah.
And before Max, do you have a suggestion for this week?
It all depends if you like moody stuff in your adventures.
Yeah,
Me,
sounds good.
I'm really enjoying. How do you say? Um, Having background music
Okay.
in my adventures, and since I'm a Ravenloft enthusiast.
Sure.
There's a composer for that works well for Call of Cthulhu and more morbid settings. He's called Graham Plowman. I hope I don't butcher his name. Plowman, and he does fantastic music. The latest album, The Great Old Ones,
Oh wow.
it's a very nice ambience music for dungeon and battle for creepy stuff, and that's good for we had a random encounter for a ghost. It would have been fit perfectly for those
Ah.
kind of. So yeah, that's my suggestion. Look it up. He's on iTunes, YouTube.
Okay.
He's a great composer, and I really enjoy him.
Can
Really enjoy the
can
stuff.
you send me the link, an email, and then
Yeah,
I'll post it on the show notes here. That would be great.
sure, perfect. I'll do that this weekend. No problem.
Okay, great. So my suggestion, was you kind of alluded to,
Yeah,
is again,
which
if you, I'm sorry, Max. Yeah,
I want
I'm sorry.
to know. I want to know. I want to
Yeah.
know.
So, we talked about, especially for those of us who are fortunate to have children, and when they get older,
Yeah.
they can take part in the hobbies that you grew up with. And again, I'm very fortunate that the production goblin Nico, when he has time, he plays fifth edition. I'm glad he plays fifth edition. That's everyone should have their game. This game is, we want it to continue, and if there's a 10th edition, that's wonderful. And fifth edition will have a place in his heart because that's the one he played with. Um, and so, uh, David Graham Plowman is what's that about,
Uh,
David? Is that what the one he's talking about?
Gra- yeah, Graham Plowman.
Yep,
Yeah,
Graham Plowman. Yep.
WMAN.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Max. So, but it's very daunting to give a 6-year-old, eight hard copy books and go, okay, we're going to
Yeah.
play D&D. So this came out in, I think the year 1999 or 2000, and I was at
Wow.
the bookstore and I saw this. I'm like, oh, cool. This combines Diablo so those who don't know, Diablo and Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 are classic um, fetching D&D dungeon crawl games where you assume a
Mm-hmm.
character. Initially it was single player, but there's a multiplayer, and it has this uh, much copied magic item generation system that adds a bunch of flavor. Go ahead.
No, just 1 second. Continue. I'll be right back. There's another emergency.
Sure. So, for those who don't know, so back in 1999 2000, they came out with this box set, which is kind of like a starter set, called the uh, Dungeons and Dragons Diablo 2 adventure game, and it strips the game down to you have these predefined character sheets, which I'm showing up here. They have predefined characters, and it's very simple. It gives you the basics. It has the 6 stats, the what you need to hit, what you need to roll. It has very simplified rules. It has a rules book. It has a quest book. I'm showing them on the screen, and it has these tiles, and it has these little chits for monsters. And basically, what you do is you lay out a starting tile, and you put your players there, and as they go to the end of the tile where there's a door, it randomly generates the dungeon, and it has, once you go through a certain amount of rooms, it um, tells you who the boss is at the end. So I'm just kind of showing the stuff, Max. And it's
No
and it's a good, so
problem.
for
The background.
instance, this tile has 3 little red indicators. So this would be if you're in quest 3, you know you have to put 3 whatever little rats or whatever, and they would attack the party. So it gives you all the basics of D&D, the idea of adventuring. You have a character, you play a role, and it's a good. It's also a story that's very compelling. The Diablo story is very compelling, and so it gives you a nice gateway drug into that. And I'm sure there's copies on eBay. There's also newer versions of this, meaning the D&D Temple of Elemental Evil, against the giant. Is it against the giants? Wizards of the Coast have come out with newer versions, box
Yeah,
sets that have
yeah,
miniatures.
yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
neither of these are. That one is less D&D than this. This at least has a character sheet, and it gives you who you are.
Wow.
So in this case, you're a sorceress, which is again
Yeah.
not a class from D&D, but it's a class from Diablo, and it tells you it has all the basic stats, and it tells you how to roll an attack, how to
Yeah,
how to
of
cast
course.
spells. So it gives the
Yeah.
player everything they need to know on one little chart. I'll show it for my people here,
Yeah.
and it has little boxes. So it shows what spells you have, and when you cast a spell, you put a checkbox on it. And very,
Oh, perfect.
yeah. So it's a nice way for, and also to, one of the most daunting things about, as you mentioned, Max, it's not only having players who are comfortable, but also if you've never DM'd before, there's all these rules, you got to figure stuff out. This makes
Yeah,
it very simple to do that.
perfect.
So if you want to get a little
I-
old
I'll
school, try it.
definitely check in. I'll definitely check that out because yeah, there's a bunch of role-playing games that are aimed for kids, but if you get something that they know, like Diablo, because they saw you play or
Right.
they know about it because of their friends, that's a plus. So they're probably gonna go more a stepping stone there. So yeah,
That's
perfect.
right. And
That's
yeah, so they have also
yeah,
Stranger Things. I've seen a box set for that.
yeah,
So there's
yeah.
whatever tie-in is going to help your group get into role playing. That's what I would
That
suggest. But
yeah,
I've used this. This is a lot of fun. You can get at least 20 hours of gameplay out of it, and then
that's perfect.
you can kind of say, "Great." And it's like any of the starter sets. If you spend $20 and people go, "Meh," then you haven't spent a whole investment.
Yeah, good stuff.
Well,
Good stuff. I hope they have it digital download, if not physical, at least.
Yeah, I
You know.
think there's some people have scanned it. It's the challenge with this version is then you have to cut out all the tiles because it's a tile
Yeah.
generated thing. Um, I've seen them online. They're not super expensive on eBay, but I haven't checked recently. Uh, I think they may have been
No.
$30 or something. So again, some version of that is good.
Every time you have a suggestion here, I gotta shell out more money. So Sure.
Yeah, well, great. Well, I hope they failed their
That's,
save, and I hope they failed their save on the mood music because I think there is a place for that. Um, I think if you,
if you like that sort of thing.
no, I definitely do, and I think it works.
No, I mean people around. Yeah.
Um, I think people expect that nowadays. The difference
Oh, okay.
is, um, well, I should say that if people are on the internet and their only experience is watching people online play D&D, which again to me is very odd. I'd rather play D&D, but people like watching people play D&D. They expect the dark lights and the moodiness
Yeah.
and the ambiance and
Perfect. Yeah. True.
so I think that's a great suggestion. I use Roll20, which is an online tool I've played with, and it allows for depending on what map you put, it'll play a
Yeah.
soundtrack. It's just more housekeeping. That's the only problem. So
True.
it'd be nice
Yeah.
to have just something up or drive through RPG for digital downloads. Yep, thank you, Vic. So there may be a place on there.
More stuff to
That's
buy.
right, more stuff to buy.
No.
So I think we're almost about done. I do want to give a shout out to our good friend Carlos and his wife Amanda. They are struggling with some health issues. Carlos reached out to Dan. Amanda's having an illness. I don't want to go over what specifically, but if you can keep them in your thoughts and think about them, and maybe if they're on social media, give them a shout out and wish them well as they go through the next phase of their life where they have to deal with
Yeah.
some health issues. Very sad news. So we wish them the best. We pray that things will go well, and hopefully they'll still be able to. I think they're planning to still get down to GrogCon. I didn't get the specifics. He just texted me last night some of the challenges they're having or the challenge they're having, and wanted to make sure we mentioned it, which of course we would. So please send them your good vibes and prayers and thoughts to our friends up in Cleveland because the irresistible emulator of Cleveland. We want him and his wife to do well, but we're thinking about Amanda and Carlos.
Okay.
Okay, great.
That's amazing.
So with that, Max, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this.
I really enjoyed it. Sorry for the background noises. I mean, there's washing for 7 people. Only on the weekend we can do that, so sorry about that. There's so many running water. I hope the distortion of the sound isn't too bad on your side.
No, it's okay.
Here it's okay because here it's hectic. It's really noisy, so I'm like, oh no. Sorry about that, viewers and listeners, about that. But life happens, and when you get 6, 7 people here to do their washing, yeah, that's what happens.
Well, yeah, that.
My man cave is all pipes and like you see, so that's my little small safe space,
Nice.
if you can call it that.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. Next time I'll try to do it. I don't know, outside in the wilderness or something where there's Wi-Fi.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, I think we talked about
But
last
yeah,
week. Maybe we'll do a virtual game. We'll get you on. Maybe we'll get Vic on. We'll get David Thompson. We just have to find a time that works for,
good.
everyone because
Yeah, that would be amazing.
we're on 5 different time zones throughout the world, and we would certainly love to get our folks who are part of our community. And maybe it would be something I would run. Maybe Dan and Nico would be here. Maybe Vic would want to do it online. We'll figure something out. But that'll happen probably after GrogCon. We got to get through that. Maybe our 1-year anniversary, close to our 1-year anniversary. So thank you again, Max, for being on the show.
Hey, perfect. It was a real pleasure. I was really, really nervous because it's been a while since I've been on front of a camera. but I've been a reviewer in television shows before, but it's been close to 20-ish years since I've been in front of a camera, so my first time in a while. So I was like, whoa, okay.
Well, you did great. We've had a great time.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. So Vic has said he would be the master of mayhem. That would be wonderful. So, we'll need to get that set up after GrogCon. So Vic comes down.
Perfect.
He comes down to Florida.
Yep.
I think he comes down every year. That'll be wonderful. So perhaps we could do something in person and then stream you guys, or do something like that. We'll figure something out. So
hopefully, I would like that.
Okay, perfect, wonderful. So for Max, I'm James, and thank you for listening to Grog Talk. And and we'll see you later. Oh yes. Oh, thank you very much. We have to roll our. Yeah. Thank you, sir. You know what? You know what the problem was? I didn't scroll down. Go ahead. Roll D10.
I'm sorry if I break the chain.
That's okay.
I broke the chain. 5.
5. Okay. Well, that's not bad. 5 is a little close to average. It's I think it's Dan is not
because
here.
of the noise.
Well, the noise, and Dan's not here, and but thank you again for those. Thank you guys on YouTube. We're on YouTube every week. We're on Twitter at GrogTalk. We're on the website GrogCon, Google Play, iTunes for the podcast. Please review, like, and subscribe. If you want to be a guest or you want ideas for the show, please send it at info@grogcon.com. And once again, I'm James. Go ahead, Max.
I'm Max.
And we'll see you next week on Grog Talk. Bye-bye now.